In 1995, a little-known actor named Tom Cruise decided he wanted to star in the film version of a beloved 60s television series known as Mission Impossible. The show ran from 1966 to 1973, being critically well-received and enjoyed by many fans. Paramount, who had the rights to the franchise, had been trying to get a big screen version off the ground for years. Cruise and his producing partner Paula Wagner decided this would be the first film they produced under their new production company. After hiring director Brian De Palma and again a budget of between $70 to $80 million, the film was set to release in 1996. After some rewrites to the original script due to story and dialogue issues, the film hit theaters on May 22, 1996 to mixed and positive reviews. The movie opened with a $45 million opening weekend in the US and would go on to gross around $180 million domestically, and around $457 million worldwide, none of those accounted for inflation. Over the next 20 plus years, the film would have 5 sequels, the latest of which is going to hit theaters very soon. The first 5 movies in the franchise have grossed over $2.7 billion, unadjusted. The critical responses for the films have seemingly improved with each passing sequel, and the popularity for the movies has remained consistent. Usually when a film has many sequels, their popularity and quality begin to wane, but this is not at all true for the Mission Impossible franchise. So why is this? I'll tell you why. I'm Brian from Screen Chaos, and here's why the Mission Impossible franchise has lasted so long.
In order to do my job, I have to ask myself, who is Tom Cruise?
Now, in the current movie market, there are tons of blockbusters released every year. In an oversaturated market, one thing that is essential is to make your movies feel important. To make people feel like they have to watch your movie. And a good way of doing this is spacing out the sequels. In 1999, Star Wars The Phantom Menace was the first Star Wars movie released in over 16 years, effectively building the hype for over a decade and a half, and caused a pretty bad movie to make over $1 billion. Now, the Mission Impossible franchise is not nearly as popular as Star Wars, and they don't wait as long for their sequels, but the idea still remains the same. If all of the 6 Mission Impossible movies had came out within a year of each other, then people would get bored of them pretty quickly. But no, Mission Impossible 2 came out 4 years after the first, the third 6 years after that, the fourth 5 years after that, the fifth 4 years after that, and the 6th one is going to be out 3 years after the last. That averages out to a movie every 4.4 years. You see, giving these films a good amount of time in between them does a few things. It allows the films to make their impact on the audience, which for the most part has been pretty positive, and then it gives the audience enough time to actually desire another movie. Yes, franchises like Marvel do put out multiple movies a year, but they all center around different characters and stories. Mission Impossible is the Ethan Hunt show. So yes, this reason may be simple, but it is very important. Up next, we have the spy factor. The 2 most popular spy franchises are James Bond and Mission Impossible. James Bond also gives its films plenty of time in between, so that gives a lot of time without any spy movies besides Mission Impossible. People who do like their espionage, and Mission Impossible gives that to them. Besides being known for its incredible stonework, Mission Impossible is also known for its scenes of sneaking around and high-level thievery. There have been plot twists and betrayals and people ripping off really high-tech Halloween costumes.
Scum.
No matter how far the franchise veers away from the spy elements in some of their installments, Mission Impossible 2, the roots of the franchise have always been within that genre. It was based on a spy show. Its most iconic moment is not from some fight or some romantic moment, but from a moment of espionage. These movies are not just blockbusters, they are spy blockbusters, and people have certain expectations that come with that. But whereas other big spy franchises have lessened in quality, like Jason Bourne, and I mean, James Bond is all over the place, Mission Impossible has improved upon the first film and has been consistently good, and they have never forgotten their origins.
Cruise. I think if you're going to be a really good stunt double, you have to really become one with the actor. You have to walk like the actor, talk like the actor.
Now, when a lot of people think of Mission Impossible, they think of the stunts. All the times, Tom Cruise, like the madman he is, has literally risked his life to deliver on a required stunt, or a not really required stunt. Cruise does this with many of his other films, but his most dangerous ones have been with the Mission Impossible movies. The last movie was sold on the idea of, hey, come see Tom Cruise hang off the side of a plane. And that's been the case for many of these movies. These films have been intrinsically a part of this franchise. From the first film where Cruise first could have drowned, to when Cruise could have died yet again just to deliver on that iconic scene I mentioned earlier. Cruise went rock climbing in the second and almost had his eyes stabbed with a real knife. Then in the third, he nearly went splat jumping off a wall. But it was really the fourth film where the stunt nearly overshadowed the rest of the movie, when Cruise ran and jumped around the side of not just any building, but the tallest building in the entire world. Suffice it to say, these stunts have been a selling point for the franchise. But they aren't just a way to market the movie to gain buzz, they also give these films a real sense of practicality and danger, something we don't often see in other tentpole films. These big moments don't feel fake, hidden behind layers and layers of CGI. They feel real, like Tom Cruise could actually die because he could have. When you know someone almost died filming a scene, that scene feels even bigger with that knowledge. In modern blockbusters, CGI is everywhere. And I don't hate CGI, it's a lot safer and has allowed for some impossible things to be done. But no matter how good CG gets, it will never be the same. So thanks Mr. Cruise for keeping practical stunts around.
After you see the movie, you may want to pick up the book.
When someone mentions Mission Impossible, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it spies, or maybe the stunts, or maybe even one moment? Well, no. There is one thing, one person that is inseparable from the Mission Impossible franchise. And I think you know who I'm talking about.
John Cena!
No, God, no, it's Tom Cruise, alright? Tom Cruise is the lifeblood of this franchise. He has been there since the beginning. I already talked about his insane stunts, but that's just one aspect of it. Cruise's dedication goes beyond just that. He's a producer of these movies and has a lot of control over them. He pretty much decides on the director, writers, and cast. Cruise's control over his films has been a detriment to other projects, like the Mummy movie, but in this case, it's been a positive one, with the franchise's consistent quality. When around the third movie, his personal life was all anyone could talk about, he threw himself into the franchise. When the studio wasn't sure if he could lead the franchise, guess who took the risk on Brad Bird and revitalized the franchise? Cruise. He is also the face of the films. To many, the two go hand in hand. There is not one without the other. If Mission Impossible were to lose Cruise, the franchise might cease to exist. This is worse than Jason Bourne losing Matt Damon. Although they tried to replace Cruise with the same guy, Tom Cruise is Mission Impossible. This is his big franchise and he's not let anything happen to it.
I've done 14 films with Tom, alright? So I think I have a pretty good idea of what Tom does or doesn't want to.
How's that kick coming along, huh?
He doesn't think you'd go with a kick.
Why don't people get bored of the Mission Impossible movies? Because they all feel different. So far, not one feels the same. This lies in the fact that the first 5 were all directed by different directors. The first has Philip De Palma's nail-biting suspense. The second one is John Woo's signature, off-the-wall stylized action. I mean, look at all those doves. The third has a real sense of sincerity brought by J.J. Abrams. A franchise's continued success will always be dependent on if it can continue to change and evolve. None of these films feel the same. They feel connected and a part of the same continuity, but almost like different versions. In a way like James Bond, the same character but in different circumstances and with different directors. You never really get tired of these movies because they all feel different. Whereas some studios would be reluctant to change things up because if it ain't broke, why do anything creative? Different directors are chosen so that each would have its own personal identity, but still a part of a larger, cohesive identity.
You know what? I think we have too many kicks in the movie, Tom. I mean, I'd never say to Woo's face, but I think you got, like how many times can we look at you kicking a guy and then getting kicked in the face? You know what? Kick. Let's call it, let's call it kicking impossible.
Here's the thing. It isn't one of these reasons that Mission Impossible has managed to not just survive but thrive. It's because the studio and Tom Cruise know what the people want from these films. Fun, stylish action. They know what people expect from these films to deliver on them. They give them a film filled with plenty of spy and espionage, incredible and practical stunts, Tom Cruise running and jumping around, and yet they make sure these films feel different enough while giving the people what they want. Now, plenty of spy movies aren't huge at the box office, Tom Cruise movies have flopped before, and great action can go unnoticed sometimes. But it's all of these factors, all of them wrapped in a nice, fun, fairly well written bow that makes this franchise stand out.
Tom Cruise does most of his own stunts, so he doesn't really need a stunt double. But we make good use of the other Tom Cruise.
I really do like the Mission Impossible franchise. They are popcorn movies done right, blockbusters done right, and they continue to improve. But what do you think of them? Why are they still around? Do you love them, hate them, or do you just want to join Scientology? And if you do want to join the wonderful world of Scientology, then make sure you click like and subscribe. Whatever you do want to do though, make sure that you embrace the chaos.